Good morning and evening. Welcome to a Toonkind FPS. My name is Whis. I'm playing Chrys today. And I am joined by a very tired friend.
Hi, I'm Radda. I'm playing Xorblee. I'm a bit out of it, but hopefully I can still do this whole FPS thing. I shouldn't be tired at this point, but yeah, today's a tired day.
It happens.
Yeah.
So this FPS is taking place after the entrance egress game that happened about a week ago. If you haven't listened to that one, there are going to be spoilers in here, so keep that in mind. We are anticipating probably a low angst, but T for Tinies is a thing.
Low angst, but potential feels.
Yeah.
At the very least.
Yeah, absolutely.
Feelings will be had.
There will be feelings. So our little escapade this evening starts with Chrys approaching Xorblee, and she hasn't really talked to Xorblee that much before that adventure or after, but she comes straight up to him and just sort of says, kind of conspiratorially, "Do you want to go and sneak another look at the sky?"
Xorblee had just kind of been chilling in his kingdom, just kind of like... He certainly hadn't forgotten the adventure, but he was kind of already settling back into the quote-unquote normal of the studio time. He's like, okay, yeah, that was a one-off thing. I don't think they're gonna let me go back there. And then, like, Chrys just shows up and it's like, hey, you wanna go outside? And then Xorblee just... He blinks a second. He just kind of like it takes a moment to register what she's suggesting, and he's like, "Oh, sure. I." He shakes his head a bit. It's like, "Okay, yeah, that sounds fun."
She just grins at that, and she's gonna make a little pointed look at the microphone cord. She's like, "We have to take the can."
Yeah. I mean, I can take the same routes. The stealth.
Okay.
I can try to be a little better at sneaking.
Yeah, let's not get caught by an owl this time.
Sorry about that.
It was a time. Yeah. Do we want to roll them stealth just for shits and giggles?
Well, let me pull up the sheet first, because I forgot to do that. I mean, it probably won't affect anything, but this can just be for, like, flavor.
Yeah, I'll do Chrys's as well, just for fun. Hey, that's a 24, so I think we could definitely work with a 24.
Yeah, no, but remember, Xorblee's working with the whole can.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that he's got advantage for it, just because I don't want him to
get caught. That's fair. It's an FPS.
Because his soda can, it's still an aluminum can. Actually, no, that's not bad. That's not bad. I'll take it.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Sneaking rabbits.
I'll flavor it and say that Chrys uses prestidigitation to sort of make the can less brightly coloured as they go through. Oh, boy.
Yeah, less bright red.
Mm-hmm. Blend in with the floor a little bit better. So they're heading up from prop storage and to the little kitchen house. And I think Chrys is just going to open the door and step inside and start looking around and start just going through the kitchen like she was when they left. Just sort of straightening it a little bit more and brushing the dust off the countertop a little bit, just waiting for Xorblee to park and following us.
Yeah. Xorblee does his best park as close to the door as possible, so it's practically the can is practically blocking the doorway itself, but just so that he can get enough reach with the cord, because Yeah, the cord's a whole foot long, which, I mean, for tinies is incredibly long. But for, like, the sake of wanting to go further outside, he probably needs as much cord length as he can get.
Yeah. Now, we put the boards back up over the door, and I'm gonna guess that we're gonna need to use some tools of some sort to get them off. Because Chrys certainly isn't gonna be able to pull them off.
Well, with the... Xorblee kind of looks over the handiwork that he did when he sealed it up. The boards, he could let me see if I have... Because he does have something that can deal with, like, the seal that he made. But for the boards... he gets an idea. He's about to lift a finger and then lowers it. No, that's not going to work. There's any number of ideas that may have just gone through his head right now, but you have a feeling that Xorblee, like, this isn't a time to be absolutely bombastic. I mean, you can roll insight on that if you want.
Sure, let's do that. Why not? That's a 9.
Okay, yeah, he probably had some random crazy idea, because he seemed to have a lot of very loud ideas on your last trip with him.
Oh, she's just sort of gonna raise an eyebrow and go, if we get caught, we're gonna get in trouble.
No, I know.
Have you got, like,
Xorblee
a hammer or something?
just... Give me a sec. Again, I did not think this through. Xorblee kind of just goes back over the door where he parked the can, just climbs in, and you just start hearing a bunch of clanking as he goes through, like, the pile of stuff in the back. And eventually he comes out with what looks to be a letter opener.
Oh, yeah. That'd work.
And, you know, it's a dagger, but it meant letter opener. Should I roll strength, or do we just want to say that it's enough to pry the wood off?
I think
I'll
it'll
just
be up
roll
to you.
strength for fun.
Yeah, roll it for fun.
Wrong dice command.
Join Bash.
5.
5. Let Chrys help. Chrys will help. She won't help very much, but she will help. That's a
Please.
I'm gonna say that peck the dice. It takes them a while.
There's a lot of grunting.
Oh,
it's tricky, but you know, the boards are still old. They're still the same old boards that kind of wore off from war, so it's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, and it wasn't elegant.
I was just a scramble job by Squeak, right?
Yeah.
But once the boards are off, then Xorblee goes and grabs the mending device that he was using, and he flicks a knob on it, and the powder seems to go back into the barrel of the gun, and it unrepairs the damage.
That's fascinating. Oh,
nanobots.
Cool.
I mean, Xorblee's not going to elaborate unless Chrys asks, but...
No, she's not going to ask. She's just going to kind of stand there, and she's got the little sparkles in her eyes. It's like, oh, that's neat. And she's just going to gesture to the doorknob as if to say, would you like to?
Xorblee chuckles a bit, like, yeah, sure. And he takes the door and opens it. I imagine the sky is clear. There's a bit of wind rustling through the grass as he steps outside.
Yeah, it's very much the same view that the pair of them saw when they were up here the last time. The moon is in a slightly different phase because it's been a couple of days, but only just. But it's still that really calm, clear view of the sky and the moon and the surrounds on this side of the studio. And Chrys is going to step out just outside the door next to Xorblee, but just stay very close to the wall.
Yeah, Xorblee nods in understanding, like, there's things out here. He kind of understands that, but still he's just kind of like taking on, like, look at the sky. But not only the sky. He's looking at the grass, he's looking at any potential, like, flowers there might be, he's looking at the fence, he's looking at the wall, he's looking at everything that's out here.
Chrys is going to give him a minute or so to do that, and then she's going to turn to him and just ask, have you not been outside before?
Oh, I've been outside, but it's been a few months since I've been outside, and it was a different outside.
Different? So
yeah,
in a different place?
Very, very different place.
How did you get in here if it was so different?
Xorblee hesitates again. That's a very complicated question that even he doesn't quite know the answer to. Mm-hmm. So, after deliberating for a while, he just kind of glances back at Chrys and says, an accident. A really, really bad accident that left me essentially stranded here in this world of cartoons.
Oh, there weren't toons where you're from?
No. I think the term you use is real kind. Like, it's basically an all real kind world where I'm from.
Gosh, that sounds so weird to think of.
I know, it's like, I can understand why that seems so strange, because this is just normal for you. I mean, and I've kind of been getting used to it. Like, everybody's just kind of like shaking his hands, like, it's fun once you get to know it. It's just it took a few weeks to really get myself in the right mindset, you know?
Mm-hmm. We do have our quirks.
Yeah. We have our quirks back home too.
Do you miss it?
Yeah.
Chrys is going to think for a second, and then she's going to step back inside and move over to what looks like a little tiny breakfast table that's sort of off to one side. You can still see out the door from, but she's just going to brush off the tabletop and the chairs a little bit. One of them's fallen over, so she's pick it up, and then she's going to reach into her hammer space. Yep. And she's just going to pull out, in complete toonish fashion, a cup of tea and just put it on the tabletop and then sit down and sort of gesture to the other chair. Do you want to tell me about it?
Oh, you know what? Sure. He's gonna take the microphone, walk back inside, close the door, or, well, not close the door. He's gonna leave it slightly ajar so that the light of the night can peek in. But, again, he knows that there's things out there. He doesn't want to risk anything unwanted coming in.
We don't feel like fighting bugs today.
No. And he giggles a bit as the teacup is pulled out, and he sits down at the other chair without a teacup, because he can't pull one out of nowhere like Chrys can.
She'd offer him one, but she only has one.
So, where do I begin? Xorblee seems like he's having trouble, like, trying to find the exact right position, like, the right part to start with. Because there's a lot... There's a lot of layers to what he's about to explain, and he's trying to figure out, okay, which layer would make the most sense to her first. Okay, so I live in a sort of, it's a bit futuristic. It's a bit of a futuristic settlement. We call it the colony.
Like a colony of ants or something like that?
Kind of. It's more of like a, let's go with a colony of ants. You get the feeling that's not quite the definition he's using, but at the same time, it's close enough.
Mm.
So, we've got our buildings, like we've got, individual houses for ourselves, but we made them ourselves. And I don't mean with, like, stuff we found. We made them using... He holds up the mending machine. These. We have basically our own materials, and we can make whatever we want out of them. It's how I gave my soda can wheels. It's how I've been having all these cool gadgets and stuff. It's kind of like our own magic material or whatever.
It does sort of work like magic.
There's no real magic where I'm from either, but then again, I've been through enough to know that probably everywhere has some kind of magic.
Yeah, possibly.
But yeah, so the people of the colony, they're like me, real kind, alien-y. I don't know, what? Like, they kind of have the same skin texture as I do, and we're all kind of built similarly. Some of us are taller, some of us are shorter.
Mm-hmm.
We come in like a whole rainbow of colors, though. That's something. We're like a bag of jelly beans that spilled all over the floor and became sentient.
Oh, okay. Oh dear.
That's not actually how we got there. That's just a joke.
She's broken into a complete giggle fit because she's just picturing this bag of sentient jelly beans. Oh boy.
But then I think the part that's gonna surprise you a bit more than the whole colony thing is where we put the colony.
Mm-hmm.
It's not inside a building like the studio Tiny's living in. We're not in a studio or in a building. We live outside.
Chrys just sort of smiles at that, and you're welcome to roll an insight.
Yeah, I'm gonna roll an insight on that. Not that Xorblee's very good at them, but who knows, maybe we'll get something good.
6. Okay. Yeah. She doesn't seem surprised. That's all you get.
Alright.
Like, if you had said that to anyone who had been born in the studio, you would have expected some sort of reaction to that, but there's nothing from Chrys.
Xorblee nods a bit. His expression on his face is somewhat impressed, but Chrys seems to have some knowledge of the outside already, and so, Chrys probably wasn't there in the studio her whole life either. So, okay, we got something there. Okay, this next part might be the surprising part. We were located in the downtown section of one of the biggest cities on the planet. So there were a lot of bigs just walking past the colony without ever noticing because they just were too busy with their own big stuff.
Oh. Oh. Yeah, no. That doesn't
Like we
surprise
had
me
the
at all.
whole like we had the whole colony set up in like a little alleyway squeezed between two buildings, and sometimes we would, pick up random stuff that the Bigs lost on their way to work or wherever the heck they go. And we would kind of just make them our own. Sometimes they would drop Xorblee hesitates again, another term that might not fit with the whole Toon world that he's been in for so long. They probably don't know what cell phones are, and he's trying to figure out, okay, how do I explain this?
She knows what a phone is, but maybe not necessarily a cell phone.
Okay, so basically we were able to some of the things we've gotten from the bigs of my homeland are like relatively pocket-sized televisions, if that makes sense.
Oh.
And I mean like pocket-sized to their size. For us, they're still like, decently large. But we set them up around the colony, and we managed to hook it up to the Big's internet. Or, oh wait, you don't know what that is. Xorblee keeps tripping over his words because he's so much more used to a modern terminology when speaking about his home.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to, like, he keeps catching himself, at least.
Chrys is just sort of smiling and nodding. There are some, like, when you say internet, she's like, I've got no clue what that is. But she definitely is absorbing this to at least some level. And
yeah.
She then, as Xorblee's kind of flim-flamming over the internet description, she just sort of, what were the bigs like? Were they like just bigger versions of your colony, or were they different?
No, they were human. We often just referred to them as the humans because, well, they were all human. Like I said, there were no Toons, but there was also no like none of the other races. It was very much just humans, and I don't know if that's just something that's kind of like in this world where there's like I think there was some real like, birds and people. Like,
there are a couple, but
I
goodness.
don't know. This world has ended up being a lot more diverse than my home. They were all like, all the people in my colony were like me. All the people outside the colony, all the bigs were humans. It's honestly kind of boring compared to here in that sense.
Yeah, you never know what to expect here, I guess.
Yeah. But we do know a lot about them at this point because you know how like in the studio they make movies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, through those pocket-sized televisions, we were able to access basically all of the big movies and shows and everything. We basically got a complete history of their culture, and it was really cool.
Oh, wow.
And they're I mean, he thinks about like what's the best, shortest answer he could give, and it's like he thinks for a moment, and then he realizes Chrys probably wasn't asking about how the bigs are in his world as a species. She was probably asking him about how they were in relation to the tinies. And he's like, again, he's kind of fumbling over his words because he's basically just rambling at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that sense of you're hanging out with a friend and gushing about what they love, but at the same time they keep making pauses to see if they accidentally brought up a piece of jargon that you might not know. But I imagine Chrys is just sitting there like, even if she doesn't understand the jargon, she's still just enjoying Xorblee just getting to info dump about his home.
Like, she's kind of used to not understanding when people talk to her anyway, but, like...
The humans back home usually just ignored us. You're too small to notice. Although sometimes we did get the occasional someone trying to push us out of our little hovel, our little alleyway, but we had enough strength to push them back.
So you were fighting with them?
Well, not me specifically. One of my friends, Jorkevson, he's one of the members of my colony's militia. So he's more knowledgeable about big fighting than I am. But, yeah. Sometimes we had to fight them. But most of the time, they just kind of leave us be.
Is that why you've got that gun that you used?
Xorblee hesitates a bit, realizing what Chrys is mentioning, and he kind of glances off to the side. Yeah. Self-defense. Sorry again about that.
She shakes her head at that. You defended me with it. It's not your fault. And she lifts one of her hands up off her teacup and is just sort of prods at her damaged antenna with the bow on it.
Oh. Huh. Well, sorry to hear that happened to you. Xorblee's not the best with, emotions, as has been seen multiple times in previous Tiny's games. But, he's giving it the respect, okay, yeah, you have your reasons for being scared of fire, and he's not really thinking about digging too far into them, because that's Chrys's business, and at the moment we're talking about Xorblee's business.
She's just sort of thoughtful for a little bit before dropping her hand back down to her teacup. She takes a little sip and sort of, in a way that makes you see like she's deliberately not thinking about fire right now. Like, she's just looking straight at Xorblee going, please keep talking.
That is entirely fair. So Xorblee thinks, but personally, while some of my friends and, some of the other people at the colony may not have the best relationship with pigs, I absolutely love the things.
She smiles at that.
Sometimes I would go out in my soda can car and just drive out of the alleyway right onto the sidewalk where all the pigs are driving, and just drive between their legs. It was hilarious just watching a couple of them stumble.
They're just people.
Yeah, they're just people. And I can understand why people can be scared of bigger people who might not understand that we are people. But people are people, and they're subject to the same kinds of pitfalls we are. So sometimes I like to remind them.
So, in your colony, do you have a family?
Xorblee nods. I have a dad. His name is Xandorxian. He's kind of important in the colony. He says that, but then kind of brushes it aside. Like, he's important, but that's not important.
Yep.
And Yeah, I'm an only child, so it's really just me and my dad.
No, Mom?
Uh, Xorblee kind of fiddles with his hands a bit. She passed when I was really young, so I didn't really get to know her.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You don't need to be sorry about that. I was too young to even know, and it certainly wasn't any fault of either of ours. It just kind of happens. Hmm.
Hmm.
Still, I sometimes I think about her and I wonder, how she thinks of me. I'm sure she's enjoying where I'm going with this. The whole going through life thing.
I'm sure that's what parents want for their kids.
Yeah.
I don't have any. Some tunes,
None?
none. Some tunes just are without them.
Normally blinks a bit because he hadn't considered that. Because they're tunes, but he still considered, they're still like creatures. They still have families. They're still born. But this is kind of like oh, it's possible for them to just kind of show up. It's just possible for them to be drawn in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of hitting Xorblee with another revelation that he didn't think he was gonna get anymore. And he's like, oh wow,
Mm.
that must have been jarring. Just waking up without anything and trying to figure out your way through the world.
I was really lucky. I was in a village, and there was lots of people there, and lots of them had come to life the same way. So it was a very friendly community. So I wasn't alone, but I don't have any parents. It's not that
Xorblee kind
uncommon.
of like Xorblee takes this in and it's like, I suppose in a way they are your family because they were the people you grew up with.
Yeah. No, I was probably about 10 when I was born, and she kind of lifts her hands up and does what kind of looks like quotation marks under her sleeves. So I wasn't a baby ever, but so I could talk and walk around and all that sort of stuff when I was.
Xorblee just kind of blinks and nods to that in a very similar fashion to how Chrys was blinking and nodding to when he was getting into the more technical things. Because it's like, yeah, okay, I guess this is just a thing that tunes do.
Yeah, it was a dot 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 moment.
Yeah.
Mm.
I have some other friends back in the colony too. Like there's also a Lunizere. She's really nice. She acts as kind of like the mediator between me and Jorkevson because Jork, he's a great guy, but I tend to irritate him a lot. It's all in good fun, but he can yell at me a lot. He says this in a very affectionate way, like, yeah, they're friends. Yeah, friends can be a bit bickering, but also this is also a main factor of their friendship, and that's probably that's up to your judgment whether that's healthy or not.
Mm.
But Lunizere kind of, helps keep the peace between us, and she's kind of like the glue holding our little group of friends together.
Hmm. I think every group has somebody like that.
Yeah. Xorblee is kind of like thinking, I wonder who that is for the studio teammates.
Hmm. Maybe I think they take turns. I mean, Cap looks after everybody.
Yeah.
But I think they do take turns. Those that have been here the longest, anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Do all of the people in your colony have the X on their front like you do?
He glances down. It's like, oh yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes I completely forget that's really a thing. But no, it's not always an X. He says it with the quotation marks again. It's not really an X. It's more like a birth that's passed down through family. So my dad has the same kind of birthmark, and so would like his parents, and so on and so forth. It's less like a. It's more like a. It's kind of like our last name in a way,
Oh.
where it's like some whenever we send out a message to each other, we'll sign it using the symbol that's on our chest or whatever. It's honestly a pretty simple way of doing it. So like sometimes, so like he thinks for a moment. It's like you probably wouldn't have been able to understand any of the symbols, but you remember that message that showed up in the can, like back when we were on the trip?
Oh, yeah.
The last symbol in that list was essentially a signature from my friend Jorg. It was the symbol that's on his chest.
Oh, that makes sense.
Um,
Well, at least everyone would know whose symbol is whose if you're wearing it on your front.
yeah, it just happened to be a complete coincidence that my symbol happened to be similar to a symbol that you use in common. A complete accident.
And I think if we were writing your name in common, we'd write it with that symbol at the front.
Really? Huh.
I think so.
Or coincidences.
So,
Xorblee snaps his fingers a bit, like, oh yeah, this. I can also probably explain how I know common. Because he holds up the microphone. As you know, I need this to be able to talk. And, like, you've probably been able to notice this the whole time, but I can't really describe it I don't really have the time to describe it every single time. But his voice isn't coming from himself. His voice is coming from the soda can. Because that's where the speakers are. So it's like, his voice has always kind of had a metallic edge to it because it's been going through the microphone and the translator. So it's like, I can't speak common, but being around the humans enough, they all spoke common, and all of their media wasn't common. So I literally just learned common through them, essentially. I was taught common by Biggs, in a way.
So you know it, but you can't speak it?
Xorblee glances to the microphone. It's like, it's more like my vocal cord can't make the right sounds to say the words.
Oh, okay.
Like if he turned uh, I can give an example if you really want.
Sure.
He flicks off the microphone and puts it down on the table and clears his throat. And then he grabs the microphone and puts it back on. You have no idea what I just said.
You're just giggling at that. Oh, that is not what I was expecting. Oh, okay. Oh, no, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, I kind of need this.
No, fair enough. It's a shame that it has to come all the way from over there, though.
Yeah, it is.
You're smart.
He
I'm sure you'll think of something.
Yeah. Do you want to roll insight really quick?
Sure.
Another one.
Oh, that's probably work better if I actually type it correctly. 13?
Okay, yeah, I'll say that's enough. With the fact that, his colony, they all speak that alien language, and they don't really interact with the Big Sin much in his world, the question arises, why does he have a translator in the first place? If he was never intended to interact with the humans.
Oh dear. Mystery and intrigue. She's gonna ponder that for a second and glance over at the can and then glance back at Xorblee. Like, were you friends with any of the humans?
No. Not yet, anyway. It's kind of always been one of my dreams to make friends with a giant. Of course, nobody in the colony would ever let me do it, but, accidents seem to have happened, and maybe I'll get my opportunity while I'm here. Except, and Xorblee's expression falls a bit. Except, that doesn't really seem to be how things work here, either.
No. Everyone here is definitely afraid of the bigger toons.
I really can't blame them. If, Xorblee sighs a bit, they're big, they're scary, if they don't know who we are or what we are, then they might have a negative gut reaction, and that could spell danger and all that. I understand. It's just one of these days I want to meet a big and talk to them through this translator before they do anything rash and see if I can establish communication.
Well, speaking common's a good start.
Yeah.
You should, if you're curious about the bigs here, you could always ask Cap. Captain knows lots of things about them.
Xorblee, he mentally takes note of this, but at the same time his expression doesn't seem to get much better.
Or, I don't know his name, but he's shorter than us and has the helmet and the round nose and the little antenna thing. He has sketchbooks with all sorts of pictures of all sorts of different stuff that's not in here. It's from out there.
Huh.
So you might be able to look at some of those pictures.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't think I've met him yet.
I'm
then again,
not really talked
knows
to them.
How many,
They were very talkative.
Then again, who knows how many people I haven't met in the whole Studio Tiny's group. The more I stay here, the more people show up, it seems like, and I'm just kind of like, where do you all keep coming from?
It's an easy place to get lost in.
Yeah, it is. It's a big building. There's so many floors. There's so many boxes.
And the corridors and
So
the
many
ducts are
hallways.
like a maze.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess this is I never really explored buildings much before I got here, because it was always outside.
Well, I suppose if you had everything at, your size, why would you go and explore the giant house, I guess?
It's certainly been a fun experience so far.
Although I've got to say, being locked in the drawer wasn't fun.
It wasn't fun. Again, bad gut reactions from the Bigs.
It's better than the jar.
Yes. Yeah. Oof.
Have you ever been put in a jar? It's not fun.
I'm gonna roll insight on that.
Go for it. 12 will do. She is saying this with good humour and a little bit of fondness, but she has been put in a jar before, like a jam jar with a lid. So she's completely speaking from experience here.
Oh. Yeah, no, I don't think Xorblee's quite had that nasty of an experience. And he's just kind of like, I don't think it sounds very fun. Honestly, it sounds pretty boring, if anything, or terrifying. Depends on the situation, I guess.
It was scary at first, but they put holes in the lid so I could still breathe, so that was something.
At first, it got better?
Well, they let me out when they realized I wasn't just a butterfly.
Huh.
They got me in a net.
Oh, it was all just a misunderstanding.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's good that they let you out. It's good that they realized their mistake and did their best to apologize. Or at least, I guess that it was a kind of apology. I don't know if they actually said sorry, but
He did.
okay.
He was one of my best friends in the end.
Xorblee kind of smiles at that, like he takes this as a sign that, yeah, tinies and bigs, there's probably ways for them to coexist without being absolutely terrified of each other. But sometimes it took a bit of accident. Yeah. Xorblee kind of glances at the door again. It's like, hopefully I can find some time to. Maybe if I you can kind of see. He's not attuned, so you can't actually see this, but he is definitely thinking hard about something. He seems like he wants to go back out, but he wants to go back out in a more serious manner. Like he actually wants to go out into town and see what it's like he used to with his hometown, with his homeworld. Just go out on the town and see what's around, not without any fear of the bigs, without any care in the world, and he'd still be able to come back. At least that's what he hopes. He's kind of he's thinking about possibly a way to do it without freaking out the cult, the cult, but he's struggling to come up with an answer for that, and it's like, one of these days I'll find a way to head outside again. For real this time.
Chrys is hesitating. She looks like she wants to say something. And
I'm gonna want an insight on that.
Yeah, go for it. 18.
Oh.
Oh yeah. She definitely looks like she's got something she wants to say, but doesn't know how. And she's just fidgeting a little bit, and she is looking over at the door.
Xorblee kind of tilts his head a bit, glancing between Chrys and the door. Speaking of outside, is something up?
She sighs, and she's going to reach into her hammer space again. Cool. And she pulls out the mask that she was given when she got here and just puts it on the table. Could you do something for me?
Possibly. Depends what it is, I guess.
Can you give this back to Cap for me?
Probably blinks a second, picking up the mask. He's like, you've seen that he doesn't wear his mask anywhere on him. He just kind of leaves it in the car, somewhat hidden. So it's like he's not quite as loud and proud about being a cult member. It's like it seems like she was kind of the same way, but getting rid of the mask completely. Um, oh, why do you want to give it back?
Because I'm not going back tonight.
Xorblee blinks a bit, taking in what this means. How do I tell them?
I don't know. I wasn't sure how to. I didn't want them to stop me. But when we were up here the other day and I saw this guy again, and I'm not from in here. And, you know, it was fun with everyone else, but, like, this isn't my home. And
Xorblee nods. This isn't his home either.
And seeing how scared Squeak and Lester were when we were here, and how scared Cap was when he came out with me once.
Xorblee raises a bit of an eyebrow at that, but doesn't say anything.
They're here because they're scared of what's out there, and I miss what's out there. So I'm gonna go and find somewhere. I can't go back to my old home, but this doesn't feel like home.
Xorblee nods, his face becoming a little more confident in what he might say to them, and he gives Chrys like a solid look, like, then go. Just find what you want to do, but I guess just don't forget us at least. Like,
No, I won't. Couldn't. It's been lovely having gotten lost in this kind of place, and then having so many friendly people look after me for months. But I know that if I just said, thank you, but I'm going, Cap would try and stop me like he did before, and Squeak would try to stop me like they did when we were here.
well, I'm not going to stop you.
Thanks. And
He, like, slides the mask closer to himself, like, yeah, he'll return the mask.
if I can find a way to send a letter, I will, but I don't know how I'd get a letter to prop storage.
You can't just. We don't have a shipping address.
No. But
But if I do manage to find a way to make it out there, if we run into each other, yeah, be sure to say hello.
You wouldn't be able to stop me. And she's just going to get up from the table. And she picks up her teacup and drains it and then stashes it back in her hammer space. I want you to tell them that I'll be safe. Okay? And she just puts her arms out in offer of a hug.
Nobody's gonna put down the microphone and get up and take the hug.
It's not a awkward long hug, but it's a little bit of a not quite hesitant, like she doesn't want to go, but she does want to go, kind of lingering kind of hug.
It's like that, long enough to be emotionally impactful, but short enough that it's not drawn out.
Yeah. And then she sort of steps back and smiles and then heads over towards the door. Make sure you shut the door tight behind me.
I will. And I know you said you'll be safe, but do actually stay safe with him.
I don't know that it means anything for where you're from, but... And she kind of holds up a hand, and there's a little pinky finger sticking up in underneath her way too long sleeves. But she's holding a pinky finger up for a pinky promise.
Xorblee chuckles a bit. Like, he understands the concept. And it's never really been that serious back home, but also it's just, this is cute. And it still gets the meaning across, so he reaches out with his pinky and takes it. Yeah.
And she just gives it his finger a little squeeze before loosening it so he can let go. You stay safe too, okay?
I will.
Don't get locked into any more drawers.
If I have to, I might just blow open an unlock or something. Hopefully I won't have to.
She nods at that. And she's just going to step outside.
Xorblee's going to give one last wave and reach for the door and close it behind her. And she's gone.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna get the mending device and seal the door back up and put the wooden little barriers back up, and he's gonna head back to the can, drop the mask on a dash, and he doesn't quite leave yet. He closes the door to the kitchen, but in a moment of just personal nostalgia, he turns on the computer monitor and just pulls up a photo of himself, an orange-looking person similar to himself, and a blue-looking person similar to himself. And they're just kind of... The orange one is yelling at him, but he's just laughing along. The blue one's just kind of giggling. Yeah, they're having fun. And he looks at the picture for a moment, nods, turns the screen off, gets behind the can controls, and drives back to prop storage.
I guess that's where we
that'll
wrap it
be
up.
where we ended off.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that was really sweet.
That was so soft.
Oh, thank you for doing this with me, Radda. That was lovely. And thank you everyone for listening in. Chrys is not coming back to prop storage, so this will be her last Cult Studio Tiny's game. But I'm not retiring her. She'll be kicking around Toontown, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
The opportunities have expanded for Chrys.
She's not confined within the four walls anymore. Oh dear, oh dear. Alrighty, well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Thanks again, Radda.
Bye.
Bye.